Hi, I'm Anna. Welcome back to Books on the Go. Well, I have a cup of tea here and I thought I'd have a chat about the Booker longlist and the Booker shortlist, which is due to be announced on the 6th of September. And a big disclaimer before we start, I have not read the whole long list, so I can't really give all the views and all the opinions, but I have read a few books and it's been interesting following along the discussion with some of the other booktubers and the different points of view as to which books will or should or might make it onto the shortlist. So going through the long list, and I don't have all the books here, so I'll have to put them up in a little picture, but we have Glory by NoViolet, Bulawayo, which is the one set in Zimbabwe, not satirising, but commenting on a dictatorship based on Mugabe, I believe, and from animals' point of view. And so that has put me off a bit, and reading some of the reviews, the cover's amazing and the concept is really striking, and I've read some really thoughtful reviews about how that has made the reader think a lot about it, and it's been an inventive way to really make them stop and think and really learn about something they didn't know much about. But I've also heard that the animals, it's not necessarily that it could have been done without the animals. So I haven't been completely enticed to read it, but I'll be really fascinated to see if it makes the shortlist because it sounds like a distinctive book and an important subject matter. So that's Glory. Trust by Hernan Diaz. Annie has read this. I haven't read it. She doesn't think I will like it, so I've steered away from it, but I'll be interested to know if you've read it. Let me know what you thought of it. And again, it's been on some people's predictions for any of these could be on the short list, of course, because they've made the cut for the long list. They're obviously all worthy books, but I have heard some people tout it as a shortlist book. But this one I haven't heard a lot of chatter about, other than Annie said it was really good and she thought it probably wasn't my cup of tea, and I can't remember now why she said that. So we'll come back to Trust, but that one so far I have not been completely tempted to pick up. The Trees by Percival Everett. So this one is a satirical look at racism in America in the Deep South. I could be wrong about that. I'm doing this without refreshing my memories, but I heard Matthew Sharappa reviewed it and he didn't enjoy the satire part of it. He just, that sort of wasn't for him. And satire and comedy can be quite subjective. Then one of our listeners on the podcast, Books on the Go, said she really wanted Annie and I to talk about it because she wants to know what we think about the ending. So that's got me really intrigued. And I don't mind, and sometimes really enjoy satirical novels. So I am keen to read The Trees, and I think Annie's on board. So I think we'll be reading this one. Again, really interested to see if it will be on the short list, and I don't have a feel for it, but that could definitely tip us over the edge. Booth by Karen Joy Fowler. So this is a historical fiction, and it hasn't tempted me. It just sounds a bit sprawling and epic, and it's not, it just is a subject matter that hasn't particularly appealed to me. I think it's the revolving around the assassination of, was it Abraham Lincoln? Was it that person, or was it a different one of those major historical events in American history, but taking a minor character's point of view, or taking that story of the character you haven't heard as much about, and it's the whole family of the Booths, and it's sort of an extraordinary true story that has inspired it. Annie said she really enjoyed it, and she has actually got it on her predicted list or her wish list. She really quite liked it, but again, I haven't been tempted yet, so that will be interesting. Then Treacle Walker by Alan Garner. So Alan Garner's the oldest long-listed author, so he's 87 and he'll be turning 88 around the time the book is announced, I believe. So he's been writing for many years, and I actually remembered when I saw some of the books he'd written, he wrote Redshift, which I remember reading or trying to read when I was about 10 or 11 in primary school, and not getting on with it and finding it really sort of messed with my head, and in a sense that's a sign of a good author, isn't it, or a strong book, because it sticks with you and it challenges you and it makes you grapple with it and engage with it, even if that's sometimes a struggle and you really have this resistance to the book. And that can be quite an interesting reading experience, but the redshift certainly didn't work for me. And so I just based on that, and I think he's quite a specific author who has really, really devoted fans. But I don't know if he's the one for me. So I haven't picked up Treacle Walker, but let me know again if you've read Treacle Water, or if you're an Alan Garner fan, let me know if you've read Redshift as well. So that's Treacle Walker, The 7 Moons of Maali, Almeida by Shahan, Karunatilaka. And this one I'm very keen to read. It hasn't come out in Australia yet, but it's a Sri Lankan story, and it's got quite a fun premise. I can't remember exactly the storyline, but Annie and I are planning to read it when it comes out. And I think just from the reviews that I've seen, which have been really positive, I'm hoping that it might be on the shortlist. So that's on my wish list, which we'll come to in a moment. Case study by Graeme, Macrae, Burnet. Have not quite been tempted to pick it up. I enjoyed his Bloody Project, which Graeme, Macrae, Burnet was shortlisted for the Booker with a few years ago. I don't think that sentence makes any sense, but I quite liked his Bloody Project. And this one case study sounds like a similar idea, in the sense that he's using documents. The story is told through various documents in different formats rather than a straightforward narrative. But I haven't heard great reviews, and I've seen Matthew Sharappa has posted, and I haven't watched it yet, a video. He doesn't seem to have loved it, and I'm really looking forward to watching that review. But in all, I haven't added that to my list. So I'm letting Case Study go. The Colony by Audrey Magee. So we did this on the podcast. I had a friend recommend it to me. I've talked about it before. I did not get on with it, and I bailed about halfway through. And I did sort of skim through and see how it all ended. And I thought in many ways it was a strong novel, and it explores colonialism in Ireland and on an island off Ireland, from 2 men. One's an white English man, and one's I think a French Algerian from memory. And I found it all quite bleak. I quite enjoyed the humour. The first page, there's a scene on the boat, and I really enjoyed the dry humour of the Irish man who's rowing him across to the island, and this very painful artist who's insisting on going this way, even though it's totally unpractical and dangerous and sort of ridiculous and very self-indulgent of him. And that annoyed me. He annoyed me, and he just continued to annoy me, and I didn't really want to spend any time in his company. And when they started describing all of the art, I don't like art being described in books. I find it contrived, and it's a little bit goes a long way when it's fictionalized, at least. And then there was a boy, and wouldn't you know it, the boy wants to be an artist as well. So that all just seemed too unbelievable. And then the colonialism theme felt as if I was being preached to, because of course colonialism is problematic, and it felt like it was in a heavy-handed way just being hammered home that colonialism and the loss of language and all of those things that arise when countries come in and try to impose themselves on other people are really that it was so overt. It was so bleak in its tone, and the characters were so annoying that it did not work for me at all. However, it seems to be a front runner. Everybody else has loved it. Annie and I have accepted we're in the minority. So I'm expecting The Colony to definitely be on the short list, but it wasn't for me, so it's not on my wish list. Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimer. I'll be really interested to see if this makes the short list. It's about illness, and it's told from the point of view of the cancer cells in a woman's body. It's got a beautiful cover. I think it's a debut novel. I've heard some of our listeners on the podcast saying they really enjoyed it, and it was just a really beautiful and moving, thought-provoking book. I've heard also that it's not particularly plot-driven, so I'm sort of in two minds. I'm not rushing to read it. But again, I'll be interested to see if you've read it, what you thought, or indeed if it makes the shortlist. And then Nightcrawling by Leila Mottley. So now we're moving into books I can actually hold up. Nightcrawling by Leila Mottley, we just did it on the podcast. We absolutely loved it, and that's definitely on my shortlist. So this is a debut novel by Leila Mottley, who's only 20 years old, I think, or 21. She wrote it when she was 17, and in fact, it's her third novel. So she's been writing novels since she was 14, and the first two she's put in a drawer, and this is in fact really her third novel at the age of 17. So I'm feeling quite inadequate when I think about that, but it actually shows, it really does read like not a first attempt at a novel, not a real debut in that sense, and it's so accomplished. The writing is really energetic, it's poetic, it's direct, it's strong, it's punchy. It's about a 17-year-old girl, Kiara, who lives in a housing estate in Oakland in the States, and she is really doing it tough. Her brother Marcus lives with her, but their parents are not, well, her father's dead and their mother's in a halfway house, and it's incredibly difficult just day-to-day living, and it spirals from there because she ends up on the streets trying to make money walking the streets, and encounters police brutality and just trying to come up against that system. And it really gives you an insight in a completely new way into that life, and yet it's not depressing to read, and that's such a rare thing. So I did find it quite dark, the first section, I suppose, the first third maybe, but it really paid off by the end. So I'm recommending that and hoping, and I'm expecting that will be on the shortlist. That's Nightcrawling. Then, I don't know what order these go in. Oh, how did I miss one? Then I missed, in alphabetical order, Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. This is a short novel. It's very, very slim, about Bill Furlong in Ireland, who's a coal and timber merchant, and he goes around his town delivering the coal and timber just before Christmas. And so he meets and sees he knows all the people in the town, and one of the places he delivers to is the convent. So it's very much a Catholic church influenced and run town. And up in the convent, he encounters what is known as a laundry, and laundries were in operation until 1994. That's where the Catholic Church really enslaved young women, and often they were women who'd had a baby out of wedlock, or they were down on their luck, and had them literally doing the laundry for the major hotels and other businesses, but other things as well. And just a really shocking story, but it's so beautifully brought to light here by focusing just on this one man, Bill Furlong, and his life, his marriage, his home life, his work, his thoughts. It's a really, really stunning book, and even though it's short, it stays with you, and I think it's a book you could read more than once. And Annie read it twice because we did it on the podcast, and said that she read it in a different way the second time, and it really does stand up. So hoping and expecting this one will be on the shortlist as well. And the next one on my wish list is Oh William by Elizabeth Strout. I have hardly started this. I'm only a few pages in, and it's not that it sort of blows my mind in the way that Nightcrawling does, or that it's so resonant in the way Small Things Like These is, but I just think Elizabeth Strout is so accomplished, and she makes it look easy. So it reads as a sort of easy read, and that's why I think a lot of people might not expect it to be on the shortlist, but she makes it look effortless and really conversational, and like you're just having a cup of tea with these characters. But actually there's still waters run deep with her writing, and there's so much to unpack and to think about with her characters. And it's an older woman, Lucy Barton, who I didn't read the earlier ones, but she's the one from My Name is Lucy Barton. And then there's her first husband, I think, is William. Is that how it goes? And it will go on from there. I'm only literally a couple of pages in, but I do hope it makes the shortlist just because I think she does it so well. Equally, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't. Annie's thoughts were that it's not her best work, but maybe we just hold her to a higher standard because we know what she's capable of. I don't know. That's O. William. And then I've got this out of order, but the next one that I would love to see on the shortlist is After Sappho by Selby Schwartz. And this is a really interesting book. I've again just started, but already loving it. And it's really hard to describe because it's not a novel in the traditional form, but it's a series of scenes or vignettes from the point of view of women. Well, it seems to be from the point of view of one omniscient woman or group of women, which is interesting in itself, but it's talking about women from history, so going back to the 1800s, and women who've lived lives inspired by or influenced by Sappho. So it includes people like Virginia Woolf, but goes back to some women in Italy, so Rina Pierangeli Faccio, for example, and their experiences. And the writing is superb. It's got this really deft style, very clean and quite witty. It's just really engaging. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I can't describe it. I don't think I'm describing it very well, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Love to hear your thoughts if you've read it. And I think because it's inventive and yet easy to read and completely fresh, I'm hopeful it will be on the shortlist, but let's see. That's After Sappho. So my wish shortlist is Nightcrawling, Small Things Like These, After Sappho, 7 Moons of Maali Almeida, O. William, and The Trees. Having said that, I'm expecting The Colony to be on it, so that's one caveat. But anyhow, let me know if you've been reading the long list, what your thoughts are, who do you hope to see on the short list, and we'll find out on the 6th of September. So happy reading, and I'll see you soon. Bye.